So I'm supposed to keep it a secret that I'm actually Russian, so that you don't get tempted to ask me any questions in Russian. But if at any point I am talking too quickly, or if at any point you have a question about anything, please let me know, and I'll be sure to slow down and answer any questions you have. Okay?
Okay, thanks.
I mean, I see all of your names, but can you just quickly introduce yourselves?
I can start. I'm Andrei. I'm from Russia, Vladivostok. I'm in robotics, actually underwater robotics. I'm right now preparing for the international competition, going to the Tennessee next week for the tournament.
Tennessee?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Where in Tennessee?
Kingsport.
Okay. I was just in Nashville, but never been to Tennessee, or never been to Kingsport. Cool. Very nice to meet you, Andre.
What about me? My name is Marina. I also from Vladivostok, from Russia, and my hobby is ballroom dancing. I with my partner, we are the champions of Morsky Cry now.
My name is Vladimir. I'm 14. I'm from Vladivostok. I like sports. That's all.
That's all? Well, sports are good too, so that's good. A lot of options there. Okay, cool. I don't know how much Sasha told you about me, but I was born in Moscow. I used to go back all the time when I was younger. But when I started college and then started working, it happened less and less. I have degrees in bioengineering, as well as a master's degree in material science and engineering, and then also a business degree, so an MBA. I currently work at a school. Let me know if you can't hear me at any point. I currently work at a private school in New York City, which is where I am right now. And there I was hired to start a company, and it's an education consulting company. So I don't really teach there as much as I work more on the business side. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So one quick thing I will say before we jump in, I made a deck, like a slide deck, and I can share it with you later. For now, we'll just go through it together, you know, PowerPoint. But one quick thing I'll say, when I got on this call, nobody said anything. So just in the future, when you do have a phone call, a video call, especially when it's a conference, make sure you acknowledge when somebody new comes on. Does that make sense? So say you're having, if it's either a group or if it's a one-on-one or something, just say, oh, hi, you know, even if it's not the main person, because otherwise I didn't know if you heard me or not, or, okay? Does that make sense? Yeah, okay, cool. And again, if I'm speaking too quickly at any point, please stop me. Okay, so I'm gonna share my screen right now. Where am I sharing my screen? Oh, share, there it is, okay. Okay, I'll do this. Okay, can everybody see it?
Yeah.
I can.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Cool. So, we're going to be talking about two different things. Not different things, they're linked. One of them is emails. So how to properly write an email, a professional email. So that could be for applying to a university, trying to get in touch with somebody out of college, or even wanting to find out more about a profession from somebody who is an English speaker. So we're going to start with emails first, and then we're going to head into actual meetings. And again, there's a lot of information here. I just threw in everything that I know, everything that I've experienced, all the times that I've had success and failure, and they're all in here right now. Okay, so first, the most important thing is that you have to know your audience. So you have to do your research, right? If you are writing an email to somebody, that's pretty straightforward. You have to know, like, who is this person that you're writing an email to? What's their background maybe? What's their role? Maybe you don't have to know their entire life story, but know enough where you can have an intelligible conversation with them. If you don't know who the person is that you're trying to reach out to, that's okay. That happens. Sometimes you just don't know who exactly you need to, who you have to get in touch with. We'll talk about that in a couple of slides. But make sure you have a very clear intention for the conversation. So know why you're reaching out, right? Not just, hi, I have questions, and yeah, you know, so just make sure you actually have some questions to ask them, know what your point is in reaching out to this person. And also, most importantly, don't be verbose. Don't write essays. Don't write huge, huge, huge things. Just be very short and sweet. These people receive a lot of emails. Generally, I mean, my inbox is exploding every single day. The shorter, the more direct you can make an email, the better. Okay?
Okay.
And be
Mhm.
polite.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right, so some greetings. And this is all, again, there's a lot of things that are pretty much the exact same thing that you would do in Russia. There's really no differences. This is more so just from the perspective of translating things for you guys to help you out a little bit more in that way. That's kind of why I'm doing this. But there are certain differences that you'll notice between like Russian etiquette or even European and general etiquette and US etiquette. They're minor things, but very important, but you'll see them as we go through it. So some greetings, you could just say dear, whatever the name is. You could also just say hi, hello. Generally, what I've noticed, the main difference between like Russian greetings and American greetings, you could say something like there's an exclamation point used at the end, right? Like you'll say, I don't know, like you'd say like the name or the greeting and then exclamation point, right? You don't do that here. I mean, it's a little bit strange, right? So it's generally just a comma. So dear Bob, comma, blah, 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 blah. You don't have to use their last name only. You could use their full name. So, you know, you could say, dear Marianne, I don't know, I'm trying to come up with it. Dear Mary Jane, right? So just use their full name. In some instances, which you'll see later on, you won't know if it's a male or a female. Right, so some names like Sasha can be a boy's or a girl's name. In the US, there are plenty of names like that. So in those cases, stay away from using like Mr. and Mrs. Just to be safe, you can just use the name.
I need to close the door.
Okay.
Thank you.
No worries. Okay, so then, but if you don't know the person's name for whatever reason, you couldn't find them on Google or LinkedIn or anything like that, then you can just say dear whatever their role is. So like, dear professor, well, you know, if you don't know the name for some reason, or dear admissions agent, or dear admissions faculty, or something like that. If for whatever reason you don't know their name, do your best to find out what the actual name is, though. You could also say to whom it may concern, which is kind of common. Try to stay away from it, but it's okay if you have to say that if you have absolutely no clue who you're trying to reach out to. And then ultimately, when you go back and forth, right, so those are kind of in the beginning. When you start going back and forth in communications with someone, you can drop the dear or the hi, because then it just starts sounding weird. You know, like, you know, hi Anna, hi Nika, hi Stan, you know, and it just keeps with the highs and it gets weird. So you could just go to the name, but after some time. Yeah. Okay, so opening statement. First, of course, introduce yourself, especially if it's the first time you're interacting with somebody. If you are looking for a specific person to get in contact with, you know, if you either are reaching out to somebody asking for somebody else's contact information, or you don't know who to reach out to, just say, hi, I'm looking to speak with so-and-so, or I was hoping you could connect me with a specific name. If you're writing an email after like a weekend or a holiday, it's nice to sometimes just acknowledge, hope you had a nice weekend, hope you enjoyed your holidays, in a similar way that you would do in normal email conversation. And then this thing, actually, this is something interesting because my father didn't grow up here. He grew up in Russia, and so he has this hard time when it comes to something bad happening, and say the person that you're emailing with says, I'm so sorry for not writing you this last week. I had a death in the family, or my daughter was sick, or something like that, right? So the question is, how do you reply in those cases? And it's as easy as just saying, I'm sorry to hear that so-and-so was sick, or please accept my condolences in the case of a death, and then you just move on to the next thing. But it is still good to acknowledge that, because they're opening up to you. They're opening up something kind of painful to them. And you'll notice, I don't know if it necessarily will be that way because you're a little bit younger, so maybe they won't be as open, but you will notice that, in my experience, Americans are much more open about that. Like, they'll tell you their whole life story and be like, yeah, and then I went here, and then my car broke down, and then my dog broke its bone. They'll tell you the whole life story, so just make sure you acknowledge it. Yeah, make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, and now when you have been delayed in responding to someone, you can say something like, I apologize for my delay. I apologize for the delay in getting back to you. I never pressed send on the email, whatever it is. All this comes down to, and I'm not going to go through all of these things, you'll see them for yourself. All this comes down to is just acknowledging that you made a mistake. And by doing that, it shows that you're mature enough, and it shows that you care. That's the most important thing. They'll see that you actually care. In some instances, say you use the wrong title, you thought they were a miss and they're actually a mister. Try to just not use that title at all, because it's safer that way. But if you did accidentally do it, then just ignore it and just fix it the next time. You know, and then you realize, oh, it wasn't a man, it was a female. Then just move on. Just skip over it. I've done that many times and be like, oh no, you're not the right gender. And just do that. But at the end of the day, just acknowledge it, or in some cases, just ignore it and move on. Any questions yet?
Mm,
Yeah.
No.
Actually, there is one. Are you going to send us this presentation?
Yes, I can. Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you.
I know there's a lot here. I went a little crazy with it. But yes, I can send it to you. So don't worry about writing anything down. Just listen and see if you have any questions while we're going through this. And I will give you a little exercise to do to try to kind of combine all of the things that we're talking about. There's actually another thing. That's interesting. Okay, well, so one other thing which I forgot to copy over from my notes. There's this concept, do you know, like, pronouns in general, like his, hers, him, she, they, you know, that kind of stuff. Like, so I'm a she, you know, 3 of you are he's, you're a she as well, Marina. There's this thing right now, which I think is also happening in Russia, but much more slowly, where more and more, not more and more people, but people are more open about being gender neutral, right? So I recently learned that in Russian it's ano, right? So like not ana или он, but ano, which is very rude in English. Don't, like, that translates to it. That translates to an it, and an it is an object. You know, this is an it, not a person. But the point to this is make sure that, like, not even make sure, sometimes you'll see in the signature, especially in academia, like when you're writing to a professor or somebody else who's at a university, you'll see that at the bottom in their signature, it'll say like pronouns, he, his, him, or it'll be pronouns, they, them, which is like они, but that's gender neutral, as in they don't associate with a gender. So if you see that, don't be confused. We're heading in a very, you know, not developed. I guess we're getting very interesting with our gender identities and things like that. Okay, it might be a little bit confusing to you. This is more just to be aware of it, but I'll throw it in the slide deck too. I just forgot to copy it over, but just be aware of that. Long story short, if you don't know if it's a Mr. or a Mrs. or a Miss, don't use the word. Just say, dear Bob. It's easier that way, okay? All right. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's it. So, body of the email. So now you're getting into after the introductions, now you're setting up the meeting. If somebody asks you about your availability to have either a conference call or an in-person meeting, all you say is, I'm available on these days and these times. In general, if you do need to find out how you're going to be even having this conversation, I imagine for the most part, since you're not here, you'll be having like, you know, video calls or phone calls. Just make sure you clarify how that's happening. What would be most convenient for the person you're reaching out to, who you want to meet up with. Make sure you understand exactly how they want you to prepare for that meeting. Is there something they want you to send to them ahead of time? Should you send them your resume? Should you print out a resume if you're going in person, and things like that. So that's just being prepared and making sure that you're clear on your availability. And then on the other side of that, when you need to hear about somebody's availability, so it says when you need to hear back about something sooner rather than later, you have to make sure that it's an actionable item. Actionable meaning you don't just say, like, say you're going back and forth with somebody and you're like, oh yeah, we should set up a time to talk. Okay, talk soon. That's not actionable. It's not clear if you're expecting an answer from them. You have to make sure that whatever you're putting in your email clearly sends the person on the other side to action. As in, please let me know at your earliest convenience when you would be available. Would you be able to speak on the week of the 17th or on Monday, Wednesday, or Thursday of next week? So make sure all of your questions, all of your emails have a concrete result, right? You're not just having a conversation back and forth. What's the purpose of it? Well, your purpose is to set up a meeting, or your purpose is to find out more information about something, or your purpose is for them to send you a document, or your purpose is for them to connect you with somebody. Make sure whatever that purpose is very clear in your email. Nothing's left open and weird and passive. And then if you have to double check on understanding, right? So they could have said something and maybe you're a little confused about it for whatever reason. Maybe they didn't write it clearly. Just don't be afraid to ask, you know, just in the same way that you wouldn't be afraid to ask in a class. Just say, I just want to make sure I understood you correctly. Blah, 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 blah. Is that correct? Or am I correct in my understanding? Don't be scared to ask that. People are more than willing to clarify anything for you. And it's better to find out sooner rather than later if you were having two different conversations. Okay, so grammar. This is a big one. So I put a link in here that has like commonly confused words. There are a lot of them, and a lot of English speakers have many, many issues with them, and it's perfectly fine. Just make sure, like when you're writing something, you're kind of being careful with that. So I'll just go from the top of the page. So capitalization, question to you. Do you know what to capitalize when you're writing in English? And I know this isn't a grammar lesson, but you know, I just wanted to kind of cover some of the basics. Do you know like what do you capitalize in English? Or rather, let me put it this way. Are the things that you capitalize in English different from what you would capitalize in Russian?
No.
Correct.
No.
No, that's true. Yeah, correct. It's the same thing. Like German, right? In German, you capitalize a bunch of words. German has a lot of, like all nouns are capitalized, I think, something like that. English, it's the same type of capitalization. So if at any point you're like, do I capitalize this or not? Be like, would I do it in Russian? And that's it. And that solves your answer. Okay. Sometimes you'll get to those points where you're like, well, is it a title? Is it not a title? Think to Russian and then just do what you would do normally. One huge thing that I've noticed, which is a lot of fun between for Russians going into English, is the versus a. Can somebody explain it to me, please? When would you use it?
I can try.
Go ahead.
So we use the when we are talking about the object we have talked before, and when it's an object we have never talked about, or it's not interact, but
General?
General, yeah, general object.
Yeah.
And the is direct.
Yeah. So it would be like, this is the phone, but I have a phone, right? So like in general, I have one of many phones, but this is the phone that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Or this is a cat. Can't see her, she's black, but she's here. There she is. Yeah, right here. This is a cat. But then if you're talking about, if it's something more specific, like if you're pointing at an object and you're saying like, oh, do you see that person, the person over there, right? So then it'd be specific. So the reason I bring it up is that if at any point in your email, you have to choose between the and because in Russian it doesn't exist, right? There is no the or really. If at any point you have to choose that in an email, just think to, is it a specific object you're talking about? Or is it a general concept that you're talking about? Like, is it one of many objects, or is it a specific object? And you'll get more and more familiar with it over time. And I know that Sasha's been working with you on English as well, but just kind of keep that in mind, that like those nuances can really make the distinction between an email sounding very smooth and like clean and kind of more formal, more professional, versus it being a little bit like less professional. It's not a big deal, but just make sure you get really familiar with the differences between when you use the and when you use a. Okay, so commonly confused words. I'm also not going to go through all of them. You can look up, and I'm sure that you've already seen a lot of them, but these are a big deal. And again, English speakers have a huge issue with them as well. People who were born here have a huge issue with them. I would say probably more so than foreign learners of the language, because they're lazy. But just make sure that you get comfortable with the differences there as well, especially these. Like, there's a lot of words on the link that I sent, but these are kind of, in my opinion, the most important to get familiar with. And then just quotation marks. Yeah, quotation marks, only use it when you're doing a direct quote. So if you're taking, so say you're emailing with someone and you want to refer to something they said in the previous email, so a direct quotation, use the quote. Be careful using quotation marks in general, and I don't know if it's the same in Russian, but it can be sarcastic. So if you say something like, oh yeah, that was a good idea, that's like, it was a good, I was like, oh, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. It's sarcastic. It's, do you know sarcasm? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a question here. What is different? When should I use a double quotation mark and when should I use a single quotes?
It's very easy. Never use single quotes. They're barely ever used. Some people use them in books to distinguish between, so like in a book you would have somebody is quoting somebody. So if I'm quoting my friend who was quoting a friend, then maybe there'll be single quotations within a double quotation. That's pretty much the only time. Otherwise, don't touch single quotations.
Okay.
Okay, it's an apostrophe. Apostrophe is like, like here, right there. It's that's really the only time that you would ever use like a single quotation. Otherwise, don't. It's easy. Yeah?
Okay.
I don't know if it's the same in British English, but I can tell you in US English, honestly, I think I've only seen it in books. Otherwise, nobody writes that way. Okay, so I named this Getting Saucy because I have no other way to describe it. What I mean by that is getting a little bit more creative in your email, right? So it's not just text. So it's not just like text, 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 text. So there's like a little bit of, so you can break up the text a little bit. So that's like bolding, italicizing, underlining, quotation marks. I won't go through all of this. You can go through it on your own, but basically it's okay. Like you can bold things, right? You can make them thicker. You can italicize. Actually, this would probably make sense. Hold on. Yeah, you can make things bold. You can italicize. So here you go. Bold, italicize, underlining. You can use quotation marks. You can do all of these things. Just make sure that it actually makes sense. And otherwise, go at it. There's different instances where you would use underlining versus italicizing. They're pretty much interchangeable. It just depends on how much you want the text to stand out. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. And then bolding, even if it's not a title, say you want to say, thank you so much. You can put the so in bold. That's okay. That's fine. It helps to break it up visually. It feels better. Too much text is too painful. Break it up. Emojis, smileys, right? So happy faces, don't do that. Not unless you're like very friendly with somebody. Not in business conversations, okay? So stay away from that. And exclamation points, this is actually a big question for most people. That's why I brought it up. It's okay to use it only when it's appropriate. Don't use it in every sentence. But if you're like, I really look forward to talking with you, exclamation point, that's fine. You can show some enthusiasm, just don't do it every single sentence because I find that extremely annoying when somebody is just like, because it just sounds like their voice is, oh my God, hi, you're great. Oh, it's great. I can't wait to talk to you. And this is amazing. And it's too much. So just use it carefully, but use it. And finally, humor. Put your own personality into emails. They don't have to be dry and boring and dull. Put in your humor, put in your personality. Again, just use caution, be careful. You know, like imagine somebody's probably reading hundreds of emails a day, whoever it is that you're reaching out to. If you can make their day a little happier, it's okay. Just be appropriate. And then finally, over time, if you're constantly going back and forth with somebody, you'll see that like the formality will go down. So instead of saying like, dear sir, dear ma'am, dear hello, maybe it'll just go to see you soon or like talk to you then, right? So it'll keep going. It'll keep kind of becoming less and less formal. You can stay as formal as you want, or you can match it, right? So if you see that they're getting less formal, you can also get less formal, and that's okay. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so now showing things, just showing things, right? So similar to apologizing for something, it's just an acknowledgement. Just make sure you're acknowledging. So thank you for offering to speak or meet with me. I look forward to speaking or meeting with you. After you've actually spoken or met with somebody, make sure you do follow up with them in an email. It could just be something as short as, dear so-and-so, I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. I found our conversation to be very valuable, and I look forward to staying in touch in the future, something like that. But just make sure you do follow up on every meeting or phone call you have. It shows that you respected their time and you appreciated that conversation. Good?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, now we're getting to the closing and signing off. So if you are waiting on a reply from somebody, after you've said, you know, here's my availability, let me know when works for you or whatever it is, you can just end it with, I look forward to hearing back. I hope it's all right if I reach out to you in the future with some additional questions. especially if you've already talked a lot with somebody, right? So like you've gone back and forth, you've gotten everything you wanted to from that conversation with that person, and that person has gotten everything they wanted from you, or whatever the case may be. Don't just drop off the conversation into the blue. Make sure you maintain that relationship, and you say something like, I hope it's all right if I reach out to you in the future with some new questions or updates, or say something like, I'll be sure to update you as my application process goes on, or something like that, right? So just hold on to that relationship, even if you don't keep communicating with them. Kind of maintain that you would like to keep in touch with the person. And in terms of signing off on the email, it could be sincerely, kind best regards, best, thank you. Less formal, a little bit more Australian, you could say cheers, or British, you can say cheers. This is completely up to you. You can really choose any of these things. Honestly, it doesn't matter. It just depends on how formal you want to be in the conversation, but any of these things work. So it's completely up to the personality that you want to bring across to the person.
Okay.
And so, okay, so I'm just going to go to the right side. Sending documents. I cannot emphasize enough. Send PDFs. PDF documents, right? PDF. Yeah. Everyone know PDF?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Where is PDF?
Huh?
Where are we going?
You don't know
Like,
PDF?
we do, but
Why PDF? Okay.
yeah.
Because PDF won't change formatting. So say you send a document in Word. If somebody wants to print it, if somebody wants to open it on their computer and print it, maybe they don't have Microsoft Word, and maybe they have a MacBook like I do, and so they have Pages, which is the Mac version of Word. Pages will open it up in a different format, and now when I print it, it can get all funky and weird, and maybe text will be shifted and will be in different places. Same thing with if you have to send an Excel sheet or a PowerPoint. Things start shifting in transit, and you just want to avoid that. So the safest way to do that is to send a PDF, because it's essentially a screenshot, right? It doesn't change. You're just sending basically like a paper to them that they'll just print, and it'll look exactly the way you want it to look. So it'll be neater that way. It'll be nicer, no problems with it. No formatting, weird things. You're just sending the thing as you want it to look like. Does that make sense?
Yes, but what if he wants to change it, he or she, or whatever?
Yes, if it's a case of you're sharing a document that you're both editing, then of course. But if you're sending something that you want to look exactly the way that it was when you completed it, then send a PDF. Yeah, if you're editing a Word document or a PowerPoint or an Excel anywhere, then of course it has to be editable. But I'm talking more so from the perspective of like, if you're interacting with somebody and they want some information from you, just make sure you're sending it in a PDF, because it's nice and easy. But if they wanted to comment, for example, on an essay you're writing, right, or application essay, then send it as a Word document. This is more so like in the perspective of they just want you to share a document with them to look at it. Does that make sense? It's a very good point, though. It's a good point. If you're actually editing something together, then of course don't send it as a PDF, because that won't be editable. But yeah, good point. Good? Okay. Last two things before we go on to meetings. Don't put your photo on a resume. Ever. I know that in a lot of places in Europe, you can put your photo on a resume, and they even suggest you do it. I don't know how it is in Russia, but in the US, don't. Ever. Even if you're like, oh, but I'm so pretty in this picture, I'm so handsome. Don't do it. Just don't, ever. It's not appropriate. If somebody wants to, they can look you up online. You're all over the place, but just don't do it. And when you're sending any document, I gave the example of a resume, but if you're sending anything, make sure it's clear what it is. I mean, that's pretty much common sense, but just wanted to make sure that's understood. Now you have Pushkin's resume. Okay. All right, so your assignment, if you choose to accept it. Oh, we still have some time, so this is perfect. Okay, so from everything we've talked about, which I know has been a lot, but I think you all completely understand what I was saying because nothing is too complicated. But your assignment is you've done some research online already, but you want to learn more about the economics department at Georgetown University. So specifically, you want to learn more about coursework, any possibilities to do research, ability to study abroad. So I would like for you to write a short email to someone there, so you can look them up online right now, and find out about how you could possibly set up a meeting with them to ask them these questions. I'll give you, well, actually, Sash, this is probably a good time to reinitiate the Zoom call. So we'll give you like 7 minutes, even 10 minutes actually should be enough time. 10 minutes, and then you can all share. Send it right back to you within the next day or so. That might be even more effective for you. And once I'll send you the presentation, so you'll have my email in there, just as he said.
Okay.
You'll just be able to send everything, okay? It'll give you a little more time to work on it too. But in the meantime, did any questions come up for you while you were working on it? Did you feel comfortable with what the prompt was, with what, you had to ask the professor? Or not the professor, whoever that person is that you were reaching out to. Did you feel comfortable doing that? Did you have any difficulty finding out who to reach out to, anything like that?
So I have one question. After I say like thank you or regards or anything, I should like put my name and some information there. So what should I put there? What must I put there? Yeah.
So that's right here, and maybe I didn't make clear what signature means, but on the left-hand side here, where it says signature, that's what a signature is. So it would be like at the bottom of every email you send, it'll say your full name, and then maybe your email, and then maybe like a link to a personal website if you have one of those. Maybe it has your resume on it. Maybe it's a LinkedIn. Don't link it to Vkontakte or like Facebook or Instagram, right? Make it link it to something professional if you have it. If not, it's okay. You don't have to do that at all. If you write like regards or thanks, you can simply just, you can say thanks, comma, and then underneath.
Sorry.
You could just say thanks, comma, and underneath just write your first name. You can write your full name. It really depends on your preference. Maybe the better way to do it is in the beginning, you write your full name, and then maybe the second email, you just start writing your first name. Okay. Make sense?
Yeah.
But your signature, what I mean here on the left-hand side is when you set up an email account, there's an option in the settings where you can create a signature, and it's literally called a signature. It might be called something else if you're using like Yandex or something, but it'll say like signature, and you just type in and it'll be like your stamp. So every time you send an email, it gets stamped with this information. But beyond that, you could just write, thanks or regards, best regards, kind regards, comma, vice, or whatever it is.
And another question: should like if I would write on Georgetown Department of Economics, or I should put something like, here is my email that I would send to Georgetown.
You can just, I mean, from what you just said, that's exactly how you would say it, so you don't have to type that now. You could just send it to me as though I'm the person you're reaching out to at Georgetown. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. Yay.
Can you show us the page?
Yes. There it is. I will, in this PowerPoint before I send it to you, which I'll still need your emails anyway, so hopefully you'll you'll send me your emails now. So I'll get it, and then I'll be able to share this document with you. I'll also add in what a signature looks like, what it looks like to write, best or kind regards, comma, blah, 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 and then have the signature underneath. I'll just put a little screenshot in, see what I mean. Okay, everyone ready to go? Last section? Yeah, thumbs up. Yeah.
Sorry,
Yes.
where I need to write you my mail?
So I will, well, here, I can just send it. Well, when that's a good question. Here, let me go back up. There it is.
Ah.
Yeah, sorry. That's a good point. How can you send me the email without having my email to see the email? It's very confusing. Everyone got it down? Yep. All right.
May you please check the email so I'm sure that my letter.
Absolutely. Okay, now I have Andres. Okay, I only got one so far.
Oh, sorry. Can I send you my email after our conversation?
Yeah, no problem.
Maybe today.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, no problem.
I'll do like, and can you show us that page last time? Yes.
I think I already have some experience in writing to universities. So this way I'm just a little bit faster.
Is there, well, so that's a good point. Is there, maybe I can throw in some more suggestions when I send you the presentation. Is there a certain type of writing that you want more information on? Is there something that you just kind of, that any of you would want more information on in terms of email writing? Or do you want to wait and see when I send you the slide, you can go through everything and then ask any other questions you have, whichever way?
The second plan would better work for me, but I'm not sure about others.
Okay.
I would like to have email conversation with you after the lesson.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be happy to do that. Okay, yeah, and if any other questions come up about just emails in general, you can email me about them, as Andre said. So it'll be perfect. We'll email about emails. It's good. Okay, so yeah, so I'll just wait for you two to send me the email as well, and then I'll be able to send everyone the deck, and then we can go from there.
So I have a question. Should it be formal when we send the email to you, or we can be a little bit less formal than the business one? Or
how about this? You can be formal or informal, whatever you want to practice.
okay.
If you want to practice being formal, then you can be formal with me for some amount of time, and then we can go to informal. Or you can totally be informal with me. It's more so if you want to practice more formal, then I can give you feedback on all of your emails. If not, you can just totally say like, yo, dude, hi. Okay. All right, let's move on to the last section and just make sure that you do send me your samples, and then we'll go from there. You could also take a screenshot of the page if you know how to do like a screenshot. Anybody know how to do a screenshot?
Windows, the button, and the print.
Yeah.
Lower.
Okay, all right, let's move on. We're getting to that time. All right, so last few slides. So this is about meetings and calls. Now this is when you're actually in person or if you're having a phone call with somebody. For a video call, honestly, doesn't matter what you're wearing down below. You could be in underwear, doesn't matter. Just make sure that your top is appropriate, right? So if you're a female, that you're wearing either a sweater or you're wearing a blouse or something like that, especially if it's a more formal conversation. For a male, you can wear a button down, you can wear a nice simple t-shirt, maybe something with like a little bit more, like again, it depends on the conversation you're having, if it's more formal than not. But it doesn't matter what you're wearing down below. Nobody's going to see what's going on your pants. Then in person, please wear pants or a skirt. And in that case, you'll be, again, the same thing, you know, blouse, sweater, knee-length skirt. I mean, honestly, it's the same as you would do in any sort of meeting you would have, you know, where you are right now. Just like think about like what would be an appropriate thing to wear. Depending on where you're going, depending on the type of company or university you're talking to, it may or may not be appropriate for you, for example, for Mariana, yeah, for for you to wear like a shorter skirt, maybe like knee length. Don't go higher than the knee. Just stick to knee length. Again, if this is an in-person meeting, or you can wear pants. For males, generally don't wear shorts. Maybe you can if it's really, really hot out. Wouldn't really do it generally, unless it's like a university meeting, then who cares? Just wear a nice pair of shorts and a button down. Stand on the cautious side of being a little bit more formal, and then with time you can get a better feel for the person you're meeting with and get a little bit more relaxed. And if you have facial hair, which none of you do, but if you do, if you ever decide to grow a beard or a mustache, make sure it's clean and groomed. Okay, nothing like crawling out of the side. Okay, so preparing. If you're going to have a voice or a video call, just make sure that whatever device you're using is fully charged or plugged in. And make sure you're in a quiet area. If you're not in a quiet area, if you have no other options, acknowledge that in the beginning and just say, when I'm not talking, I'll mute myself. Just mute yourself. That's it. Right. So if you can't run away, if you can only be in a noisier area, then just again acknowledge it. That's the most important thing. Before any meeting, make sure you read up on the person. You can find out. Do you all use the program LinkedIn? Have you been on the website LinkedIn?
No.
No. Okay. I'll throw the link in as well. It's not a lot of people your age, even here, don't know about LinkedIn. So, but it is a really, really good thing to get familiar with. You'll be able to find out a lot about people. So for example, like I'll send you the link in the slide. If you go on the link and then you type in my name, I have a profile, and it's just my business professional profile. So if there's anybody that you're going to be meeting with or having a call with, go on LinkedIn, see if they have a profile, read up a little bit on them. Maybe during the conversation, bring up, oh yeah, I noticed you studied at blah, blah university, or I noticed that you lived in Tennessee. Wouldn't you know it? I was just there, like that. Okay.
Okay.
But I'll send you the link, so don't worry about it right now. But then just when you go on it, then play around, type in different names. Maybe some of your, family members are on it. You never know. Yeah, turn off, silence your phone, of course. Okay, again, back to humor. Is humor okay? Sure. And I bring it up again because it's a big question. How formal do you have to be? If you're like sitting like this, or just like tight on yourself, everyone is going to be uncomfortable. Relax. Enjoy the conversation. Everyone's having a good time. If it helps you to be a little silly, if it helps you to, not be as like, then do it. That's okay. It's worse if you're sitting there all tight, because it makes everyone really uncomfortable, and then you forget things and they forget things and all sorts of This is my cat. Hello. Yeah.
So
Okay. Yeah.
you have more than one cat?
I do.
Yeah.
Yes.
I have 6.
You have 6? Oh.
This is a long story.
Goodness, it's a lot of cats. Okay, I thought you were gonna judge me for my 2 cats. No.
I have only one.
This way I sleep less than 5 hours today.
Oh my God, because of the cats?
Mhm.
They start. What do they sit on top of you in the morning?
No, that they just start barking.
Oh,
Actually,
meowing,
barking at night.
barking?
Yeah,
You sure
I
you
have a
don't have
special
dogs?
cat.
Okay. Interesting. Well, I'd like to hear more about these cats.
I will try to ask an email about this.
Yes, please, please do. I sent some pictures with it. Okay, so finishing up. All right, so again, don't have to go through all of this right now, but when you greet the person you're meeting with, whether it's on the phone or in person, just say, "Hi, nice to meet you. Hi, it's a pleasure to finally meet you. You know, we've been talking back and forth on email for 10 years. It's so great that you're a real person. Thank you for making time to speak." It's just, and it comes back down to it, acknowledge the person, right? Acknowledge that you're thanking them for spending their time, and that you realize that they are taking time out of their day, whether it's a phone call or a meeting. Okay, physically, when you're meeting a person in person, and this is such a huge issue, people just don't know how to shake hands. It's either a dead fish, which is this, right? Don't you know, I don't have a person to shake a hand with, but you know, shaking hands and it's like your hand falls, or it's like really hard, like you're breaking their fingers. Don't do that. Masha и медведя. Right in between, you know, have a nice, you know, like Goldilocks, just in the middle. Perfect. Not too hard, not too soft. It's very important. Might sound silly the way I'm saying it right now, but I swear to you, very important for you to get a good handshake, for you not to break any bones, and also not like come off as being dead. So find an in between.
So talking about the shaking hands, I think I must acknowledge for the Maria that it's for both the woman and man, so male and female in America. Am I right?
Say that one more time.
In Russia, only men shake hands. So
good point. Yes, here everyone does.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah. There are generally women will be less less forward with it, so maybe a woman will shy away a little bit more, but you have to come off as strong, you know. So like there's, why are you eating my meat? You hold on, just knock him off. You should come off as a strong person, right? So if you just come and you're like, hi, it takes some time, it builds practice, and I had to build up the practice also, where you come in and you're like, hi, Marina, nice to meet you. You know, just go in there. It's okay. Yeah. There's no concept of like the older person shakes, like puts their hand out first and the younger person second. That doesn't exist here. According to my father, that's a thing in Russia. Doesn't exist here. Anybody can put their hand out first. Just make, and again, males, females, whatever you are, anything in between, shake hands. It's good. The other thing, apart from this, is some males will do this, and it's more common with males. I should actually.
What? This?
Yeah, so here, this is me, I'm a male, and then here's another person, and you'll do this. It's like this weird overhand thing, and that's to show dominance, like power. You go like this, and then you push. Don't do that. It's mean. It's rude. It's unnecessary. It's weird. But it's more common with males where they do this and then they twist your hand upside down to be on top.
Never heard about it.
Yeah, it's strange. I've met some people who do that, and it's usually between males. They won't do it with females, but just have a nice, strong, not too, not too weak, not too strong, but like in between handshake. And again, males, females, everywhere in between. But yeah, good question. I will make a note of that. And smile. Just smile. It's okay. Speaking of smiling, there is a thing. So, okay, we'll get there in a second. Eye contact, make eye contact in a meeting, right? Especially when you're meeting with somebody in person. Try not to look away all the time. You don't have to like stare into their soul, but just maintain some semblance of interest, like show that you are interested in the conversation. You're listening. You're not like, definitely don't go on your phone, of course, but don't, you know, don't look around. Just kind of, hey, we're engaged in a conversation like you would normally be. And one thing about coming back from smiling, have you ever heard of the term RBF? This right here?
No.
No. So it actually translates to, it's kind of rude, resting bitch face. I'll send you the translation. Basically, all that it means is there are certain people, like I have it, where if I'm not fully having a conversation, or like if I'm just listening to somebody, I'll look like this, and it looks like I hate everything. I don't mean it, I'm not angry to be there. I'm just listening. But to the other person, it could be like, "Are you okay? Like, are you hate me right now?" And I'll just be like, "No, I'm really interested in what you're saying." So it's just
Your microphone.
yeah. But it's just make sure that it's just some people have that face and it's okay, but just make sure you're aware of your facial expression, that it doesn't look like you're hating every second of the conversation. That's all I mean. I'll give you the translation for what is it, and then you'll learn something new, and I'll be happy that I've introduced you to an American term. But it translates to resting bitch face. Like, look at the. I'm not going to even say it right now because this is being recorded. It's just dangerous. But I'll send it to you. Okay, so keep open shoulders. Again, this is just confident, right? It takes time to practice it. Just be open to the conversation. Try not to be closed off, especially if you're meeting in person. Just, hey, yeah, I'm interested in what you have to say. Be open to the conversation. And this is all, you just build it up over time, but be present. You can sit in whatever way you want, cross-legged, uncross-legged, doesn't matter, whatever you're most comfortable with. And that is the most important thing, and I'll say it again. Be comfortable. If you're tight, if you're closed off, it's going to make the conversation uncomfortable. Okay, I promise. Last like 2 slides, and then I'll leave you alone. Okay, so if you are having a video call, a phone call, in person, whatever it is, and if you receive a phone call on top of that, that's very audible. And like, it's okay if that happens. Maybe you forgot to turn off your phone. Maybe you forgot to turn off the sound. Just again, acknowledge it. Just say, "I'm so sorry. I forgot to turn off my phone. I must have forgotten to turn off the sound." If it's something important that you have to take, then again, acknowledge it. Is it all right if I step out of the room for a few minutes? Is it okay if I put you on hold for a few minutes? It might be something important. That's it. It's okay if you do that. Just let them know what's happening. And this is really fun, and I'll send you a video. It's very entertaining. During a video call, especially on conference calls like we're having right now, there will be different noises from everywhere. Maybe there's a dog barking. Maybe there's a baby crying. Maybe there's a person that's just walking past you and it's confusing to other people, right? Like, why is there a shirtless man in the background? Oh, don't worry, it's my dad. These things happen. It's okay. But just apologize or don't acknowledge it. If it's not a big issue, ignore it, move on. If it's repetitive, if your dad is walking behind you without a shirt on over and over again, take control. Move to a different room. Say, "Dad, hey, I'm in a call. Please go away." Just take control of the situation. It's okay if it happens. Acknowledge it. Make it a joke. Make it funny. Relax. Again, it's not a big deal. Everyone's a human being. At the end of the day, the main thing I want you to remember is everyone is a person. And the reason that somebody is taking time out of their day to talk to you to have a phone call with you, to meet with you, is because they wanted to. Nobody's forcing them. And that's it. I'm done. Any questions? No?
I have one question. Yeah, it's more about, not about this lesson, but about the another. What about, I'm really interested in the public speaking and public presentation in English, because as I know, it's kind of little bit different. And there is also some stuff I must know about this.
So you're looking for, you want to learn. So what do you, are you asking that, like if there are any resources or any groups, or how do you want to do it, I guess?
Do you have any any
Suggestions?
yes, suggestions? Where should I take it from?
Let me think about that a little bit, because with public speaking, the best way to do it is through practice, right? Like just reading about it online won't really work. You should do it as much through practice as possible. So let me see if there are maybe some online groups where you could meet with people virtually like we are right now and practice public speaking. Or maybe even when you come to Tennessee, there's probably going to be some things there. So I'll think about it, but I took note. I'll let you know.
Yeah, about Tennessee, I'm going to be there just like 6 or 5, 7 days only for the competition. And we actually will have the product demonstration where we're going to demonstrate our underwater robot to the judges. So
that'll be, I mean, that'll be very impressive, or that'll be a great way to practice public speaking. It's all in English, of course, right?
Of course, yeah.
How are you planning on getting ready for that presentation?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Do you have any suggestions? How can we as a team know about some traditions or some of these stuff?
Oh, I see. So like, so format outline of a presentation.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll look some stuff up. If I can find a link that just outlines it for you, I'll send that to you. If not, then I can give you an outline. Like if I've done many presentations, specifically in engineering and science, so I can give you an outline for what would be like a good way to do it, and then I'll link some things for you as well.
Thank you.
No problem.
This helps.
Any other questions?
No.
No? Okay. So you'll send me your emails, right?
Yeah.
And you have my email. So if you have any questions at any point, feel free to reach out. And I'll be happy to, you know, if you're sending an email to somebody, but you want to make sure that, you know, that it's formatted in a good way, that it's written well, that it sounds okay, you can send it to me. I can review it for you and I'll give you some feedback on it, or anything else along those lines if you have any questions otherwise. And otherwise, I'll get your emails, your sample emails, and then I'll give you some feedback on them. And yeah, it's very nice meeting you three.
Yes, thank you for the time.
Thank you. Good luck.
Okay, you too. Bye.
Good night. Yeah.
Good night. Good morning to you. Good night
to you.
Thank you. Пока. Очень приятно было.
До свидания.